Brought to you by Penguin.
Table for Two by Amor Towles. Read by J. Smith Cameron and Edoardo Ballerini.
In memory of my father, Stokely Porter Towles. New York. The Line. 1. During the last days of the last Tsar, there lived a peasant named Pushkin in a small village 100 miles from Moscow. Though Pushkin and his wife Irina had not been blessed with children, they had been blessed with a cozy 2-room cottage and a few square acres that they farmed with the patience and persistence appropriate to their lot. Row by row they would till their soil, sow their seeds, and harvest their crops, moving back and forth across the land like a shuttle through a loom. And when their workday was done, they would journey home to dine on cabbage soup at their little wooden table, then succumb to the holy sleep of the countryside. Though the peasant Pushkin did not share his namesake's facility with words, he was something of a poet in his soul, and when he witnessed the leaves sprouting on the birch trees, or the thunderstorms of summer, or the golden hues of autumn, he would feel in his heart that theirs was a satisfactory life. In fact, so satisfactory was their life, had Pushkin uncovered an old bronze lantern while tilling the fields and unleashed from it an ancient genie with 3 wishes to grant, Pushkin wouldn't have known what to wish for. And we all know exactly where that sort of happiness leads. 2. Like many of Russia's peasants, Pushkin and his wife belonged to a mir, a cooperative that leased the land, allocated the acres, and shared expenses at the mill. On occasion, the members of the mir would gather to discuss some matter of mutual concern. At one such meeting in the spring of 1916, a young man who had traveled all the way from Moscow took to the podium in order to explain the injustice of a country in which 10% of the people owned 90% of the land. In some detail, he described the means by which capital had sweetened its own tea and feathered its own nest. In conclusion, he encouraged all assembled to wake from their slumbers and join him in the march toward the inevitable victory of the international proletariat over the forces of repression. Pushkin was not a political man, or even a particularly educated man, so he did not grasp the significance of everything this Muscovite had to say. But the visitor spoke with such enthusiasm and made use of so many colorful expressions that Pushkin took pleasure in watching the young man's words float past, as one would the banners of an Easter Day procession. That night, as Pushkin and his wife walked home, they were both quiet. This struck Pushkin as perfectly appropriate given the hour and the delicate breeze and the chorus of crickets singing in the grass. But if Irina was quiet, she was quiet the way a heated skillet is quiet, in the moments before you drop in the fat. For while Pushkin had enjoyed watching the young man's words float past, Irina's consciousness had closed upon them like the jaws of a trap. With an audible snap, she had taken hold and had no intention of letting go. In fact, so tight was her grip on the young man's arguments, should he ever want them back, he would have to gnaw through his own phrases the way a wolf in a trap gnaws through its ankle. 3. The wisdom of the peasant is founded on one essential axiom. While wars may come and go, statesmen rise and fall, and popular attitudes wax and wane, when all is said and done, a furrow remains a furrow. Thus, Pushkin witnessed the war years, the collapse of the monarchy, and the rise of Bolshevism with the judicious perspective of Methuselah. And once the hammer and sickle were flapping over Mother Russia, he was ready to pick up his plow and resume the work of life. So he was utterly unprepared for the news his wife delivered in May 1918, that they were moving to Moscow. "Moving to Moscow?" said Pushkin. "But why on earth would we be moving to Moscow?" "Why?" demanded Irina with a stamp of the foot. "Why? Because the time has come." In the pages of 19th century novels, it was not uncommon for the lovely young ladies raised in the countryside to long for a life in the capital. After all, that is where the latest fashions could be seen, the latest dance steps learned.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?